Imagine this. A family put together the biggest savings of their life to book a flat. On the day of booking, suites were distributed at home, the children imagined their own rooms, and the parents saw their post-retirement peace inside that home. But then months of waiting turned into years. The machines at the construction site fell silent, the tower stood unfinished, and at the builder's office there were fewer answers and more excuses. The EMI kept going, the rent kept going too, and the dream slowly turned into stress. In India's real estate sector, this is the story not of thousands, but of lakhs of homebuyers. In this darkness, the SWAMIH Fund emerged like a government-backed window that did not just provide funding, but brought back hope, workers, material, and movement into half-built concrete structures. The problem of stalled housing projects in India was never just a small technical issue. It had become a major social and financial crisis. According to Prop Equity data as of August 2024, 1,981 residential projects were stalled across 42 cities, with more than 5 lakh units left incomplete. Among these, the worst situation was in Delhi NCR, where nearly 2 lakh homes were stuck across 495 stalled projects. This did not just mean that buildings were incomplete. It also meant that lakhs of families were under the double pressure of rent and EMI. Banks' money was stuck, developers' credibility had collapsed, and the entire real estate ecosystem was going through a crisis of trust. This is where it becomes clear why the SWAMIH Fund became so important. SWAMIH stands for Special Window for Affordable and Mid-Income Housing Investment Fund. It was launched in 2019 specifically with the purpose of completing affordable and mid-income housing projects that had got stuck because of a lack of last-mile funding. According to the Press Information Bureau, this is a government-backed fund, and it was designed to take stalled projects to completion so that homebuyers could get possession. It was managed through SBICAP Ventures with a professional structure, meaning it was not just a subsidy model, but an intervention run with governance, monitoring, and asset management. The biggest strength of the SWAMIH Fund was that it did not leave the problem at simply saying the builder failed or the buyer was unlucky. It recognized that real estate has a knot of its own, where a project is often almost built, demand still exists, buyers are already there, but because cash flow has broken down, the work stops. In such projects, what is needed is not fresh full-scale funding, but last-mile funding. In other words, just enough money to bring a stuck project to the finish line. That was exactly the gap SWAMIH targeted. This approach by the government accepted that many times a project is not dead, it is simply on financial oxygen. And if the right capital, supervision, and execution discipline are provided at the right time, that very project can come alive again. The impact story of this fund is now clearly visible in the numbers. According to official PIB data up to the 8th of January 2026, about 61,000 homes across 110 projects had been completed and delivered to homebuyers. Of these, more than 7,000 units were in rehabilitation or economically weaker sections categories. Not just that, SWAMIH unlocked about 37,400 crore of investment across 127 projects. This means the fund did not just put in its own money, it also activated broader economic activity. When a stalled project starts again, cement, steel, electricals, labor, transport, finishing material, registration, interiors, everything starts moving again. So the story of SWAMIH is not just the story of possession, it is also the story of economic revival. According to the PIB note dated the 13th of March 2026, more than 58,596 homes had already been completed under SWAMIH, and work was moving toward more than 1 lakh homes overall, which was said to benefit more than 2.38 lakh people. The same note also stated that the revival of stalled projects generated more than 30,000 jobs and increased demand for construction materials. There is also a big psychological angle to this. When work starts again in a stalled project, cranes begin moving again, labor returns, site lighting comes back on, then it is not just construction that begins. Broken trust in the minds of buyers also starts rebuilding little by little. In real estate, confidence is a currency, and SWAMIH helped revive exactly that confidence. The announcement of SWAMIH Fund 2 in Budget 2026 happened because of this success story. According to the Union Budget highlights and implementation documents, a 15,000 crore blended finance facility model was proposed for SWAMIH Fund 2 with contributions from the government, banks, and private investors. Its stated objective is to bring another 1 lakh stressed dwelling units to expeditious completion. This announcement itself is a signal that the government saw SWAMIH one not as temporary patchwork, but as a scalable model. When a policy reaches phase 2, it means the system has seen measurable results in it. SWAMIH Fund is being called a game changer, also because it gave homebuyers not just legal comfort, but a practical outcome. RERA strengthened the framework of transparency, registration and complaint redressal, but there were many old projects where, despite the law, the cash crisis still could not move the project forward. The buyer had the right to complain, but if the money needed to raise the structure simply was not there, then the path to resolution remained incomplete. SWAMIH filled that gap. It acted like a bridge between law and finance. In other words, the promise of buyer protection was converted not just on paper, but into actual possession. In that sense, this fund became an operational rescue mechanism for the real estate sector. A major reason for the credibility of this fund was also its governance model. According to the January 2026 PIB release, SWAMIH was managed with strong governance standards, active asset management, and rigorous oversight. The release also stated that the fund had already seen 55 full exits and 44 partial exits, and had returned nearly 50% of the government-provided capital, about 3,500 crore. This is very important, because people generally see such government schemes only as welfare. But SWAMIH showed that social responsibility and commercial discipline can go together. Completing stalled homes can be not just a human relief effort, but also a structured investment outcome. Now the question arises, which projects get this fund? SWAMIH is not an open tap where every struggling developer gets money. Government documents and public statements make it clear that its focus is specifically on stalled, affordable, and mid-income housing projects that are financially stressed but still have a realistic path to completion. That means viability, execution capacity, governance discipline, and completion potential are all assessed. That is why sector experts also say that getting SWAMIH funding is itself a confidence signal. It is not just money, it is also a kind of due diligence stamp that the project can be revived. The impact was felt the most in markets like Delhi NCR because the concentration of stalled projects was highest there. Prop equity data had highlighted NCR as a problem zone, and in later months several redevelopment, co-developer, and restructuring models began showing SWAMIH backing. In a Hindustan Times report from December 2025, there was mention of Greater Noida Authority giving clearance to co-developers in 2 stalled projects where 300 crore funding had been approved with SWAMIH backing. This indicates that the fund is not just stabilizing old stuck cases, it is also supporting new resolution structures where the authority, co-developer, and finance are all working together. Cases like Amrapali had also shown the depth of this crisis at the national level. According to a 2022 Hindustan Times report, even under Supreme Court supervision, thousands of buyers were facing long delays in getting possession, and nearly 46,000 home buyers were in the public spotlight. This background shows how complex the stalled housing problem really was. Although the resolution of Amrapali projects was tied to a multi-layered judicial and institutional mechanism at a broader level, a fund like SWAMIH strengthened the narrative that reviving stuck housing is possible, provided the final push in financing and execution is given. For buyers, this was the most important message, that not every stalled project is permanently dead. A hidden dimension of SWAMIH's success is employment. The construction sector creates multiplier effects in India's economy. When a stalled project restarts, laborers, supervisors, architects, contractors, electricians, plumbers, lift suppliers, paint companies, and hardware dealers all get work. The PIB release from March 2026 mentioned that more than 30,000 jobs had been generated. And this is not only direct employment. Once housing is completed, registration, shifting, furnishing, local retail demand, maintenance services, and neighborhood economies also begin to activate. So looking at SWAMIH only from the angle of homebuyer relief would be incomplete. It has also become a tool of broader economic circulation. Another important thing is that SWAMIH helped change market psychology. When a buyer purchases real estate, he is not just buying carpet area. He is also buying the credibility of the developer. Because of stalled projects, distrust had spread across the whole sector. People had started becoming afraid of booking, under construction property had begun to be seen as a risk, and banks too had become cautious. When thousands of homes get completed and handed over through a government-backed fund, the market receives the message that even after systemic failures, recovery is possible. This kind of trust is like oxygen for the sector. If confidence returns, future housing demand also remains steady. That is why the effect of SWAMIH has been felt not just on balance sheets but on sentiment too. But to understand the full picture, it must also be accepted that SWAMIH is not the only player. In the recovery of stuck projects, private AIFs, co-developer models, lenders, the insolvency process, and institutions like the NCLT have also played a role. Besides this, in cases such as JP Infratech, RG Group, and other projects, NCLT-backed resolutions have also emerged. Official public reporting also makes it clear that many stalled assets in the sector are being revived through different resolution paths. Even so, SWAMIH earned a separate identity because it presented a national model of state-backed structured last-mile funding. In other words, it created an operational template between market-led resolution and policy-led rescue. It is also worth noting that SWAMIH's relevance is not over yet. If in 2024 there were still 5 lakh stalled units weighing on the market, then it would be wrong to assume that the whole problem has disappeared just because some thousands of possessions have happened. The challenge is still large. That is exactly why SWAMIH Fund 2 was announced, so that an additional 1 lakh stressed units could be given completion support. This means the government and policymakers still believe that the last mile liquidity gap is a structural problem in India's housing market, and that regulation alone cannot solve it unless this gap is addressed. From the home buyer's point of view, SWAMIH funds addressed a deeply human pain. Paying rent and EMI together is not only a financial burden, it is also emotional exhaustion. Children grow up, schools change, parents grow old, but the key to the booked home never arrives. For a buyer, a possession letter is not just a legal document, it is the end of years of suffocation. When a stalled project gets completed, it is not just the handover of a flat. It is a long suspended life finally moving forward again. Perhaps that is why the discussion around SWAMIH Fund has moved beyond policy language into the language of ordinary families. Because people do not understand it through allocation or corpus. They understand it through the key to the house. If the conclusion of this entire story is drawn, it becomes clear that SWAMIH Fund has carved out a new role in Indian real estate. It is not merely a bailout, it is targeted revival. It is not just a government announcement, it is possession-oriented execution. It is not merely about completing stalled concrete. It is also about restoring broken trust. Around 61,000 delivered homes, unlocked investment across 127 projects, more than 7,000 EWS units, over 30,000 jobs, and a target of another 1 lakh homes through Fund 2. All of this together shows that SWAMIH has grown from a policy experiment into a sectoral intervention. Where unfinished towers once stood as symbols of uncertainty, those same sites are now testifying that if the right capital and the right supervision are provided at the right time, even years-old deadlock can be broken. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson of this story. In real estate, the crisis is not just about buildings, it is also about trust. And when a fund turns that trust into tangible results, it no longer remains just a financial instrument. It becomes a bridge from waiting to relief for lakhs of families. That is the bridge SWAMIH Fund has built. The destination has not fully arrived yet. The question of lakhs of homes still remains, but one thing is certain. Now when people hear the word stalled project, they do not feel only despair anymore, they also see a new possibility. And for those who stood outside side gates for years, watching their future remain unfinished, that change itself is the biggest news. If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible, but in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.